It being 2 p.m, we'll enter question time. Senator Patterson.
Thank you, Mr Acting Deputy President. My question is to the Minister representing the Treasurer, Senator Gallagher. Last week's CPI figures confirmed electricity costs have risen.
Senator Patterson. Thank you.
Apologies. Sorry, Senator Wong.
I said the President will generally follow the order of the call.
Yes, so we're up to question 1. And I have the Nationals, but that's the order I have.
I was the senator who was on my feet, and I was called and I was asking my question.
Yes, although the custom and practice in here is that we follow a list. My apologies that I was late. I'm very sorry about that. That has never happened before, and it's unfortunate it happened today. But on the call, and I understand it is the usual convention that the government proposes the order, I received an email from the government that was sent to all of the whips and leaders in this place, and it had question 1 going to the Nationals. Senator Patterson.
Mr President, I hear you, but I was on my feet. I've been given the call by the person who was in the chair at the time. I'm halfway through my question. I think I should be allowed to finish my question, which I was called on by the person in the chair to do.
Senator Patterson, if I may, the convention at question time is that the order is followed. If we move to a different convention, then that is that we follow whoever jumps. That's a different precedence altogether. So I do have the Nationals on my list. I would like the Senate to sort that through, because jumping and getting called is a different convention to what we normally have at question time. I had Senator Scarr on his feet, but he's conceded to you, Senator Patterson.
Thank you, President. So just for clarity, you're taking the call away from me because of a convention. So I was given the call by the chair, I was halfway through a question, and you're now taking the call from me because you think there is a convention that prevents me from continuing with my question.
That's taking a little bit of licence with what I said, Senator Patterson. What I said was, if you are saying you're on your feet and therefore should get the call, then it's up to any— if that's the convention we're now using at question time, then it is up to any senator to jump and be given the call. That isn't the way we run question time. We run— order. We run question time on an order that has been distributed through the chamber. I received one email from the government where I think the convention is established that has the Nationals on the list. So that's what I'm explaining to the chamber, Senator Patterson.
Thanks, President. Given that I have been given the call by the Acting Deputy President, I'm going to continue with my question.
Well, Senator Patterson, I'm running the chamber, so please resume your seat. As I said, the problem with that approach is that if another senator jumps in the chamber, then I'm honour bound to give them the call, if that's the precedence we are adopting. I'm going to go to Senator Watt, and then I'll come to you, Senator Henderson.
Thanks, President. It's really just to reinforce your ruling. I mean, I know there's a lot of upending convention going on here by the people opposite at the moment, but one convention they haven't upended is that the government of the day sets the order of questions. That has been done. We had an unusual situation where there was a transferring of the chair at the very beginning of question time, but I would ask that the convention be upheld.
Senator, I said I'd go to Senator Henderson. Senator McKenzie. Senator Henderson.
Madam President, on the point of order, it would be a very significant departure in this place if a senator who was on his feet asking a question was put in a position where he was not permitted to finish the question. We appreciate the convention, but excuse me, without interjection.
Order.
Madam President, we do appreciate the convention, and you've made it clear that you weren't in the chair at the time, and therefore, by reason of the circumstances that have occurred today, and I'm sure they'll be rectified tomorrow, I would just ask, and it's very important that you permit Senator Patterson to continue to ask his question.
Senator Henderson, the premise of your statement is not correct. There have been times in the past where where a particular senator has sought the call, only to realise a mistake has been made and they've sat down and the mistake has been rectified. What you're asking me today to do is abandon the convention that exists in this place, is that the government creates the order. You're asking me to allow any senator to jump and ask a question. Now, I am sincerely, I apologise most sincerely for not getting here on time. That was absolutely on me, and it's created an additional problem because I would have given the call as it's described. So I would suggest that we start the call again and that the call is given to the Nationals. But if you're on a actually, Senator Henderson, Senator Mackenzie was seeking the call. If you wouldn't mind, I'll go to Senator Mackenzie and come back to you. Yeah, I have ruled, Senator Mackenzie. Are you seeking? You're doing the question?
I thought the Nationals were called.
Yes, they were. Thank you, Senator Mackenzie.
My question is
Order.
to the Minister representing the Treasurer, Senator Gallagher. Last week's CPI figures confirmed electricity costs annually have risen 23.6%. Does the government agree that when prices are rising that fast, the policy settings are wrong?
Minister Gallagher.
Thank you. Well, I don't accept the premise of the question, and again, a bit of understanding about what happened in the decade that the former coalition government were in power, where 24 of the 28 coal-fired power stations advised that they were going to close. Those opposite were unable to settle an energy policy in the national interests that allowed for the international transition to clean energy that we are witnessing underway, and that has meant that the energy policy was delayed in this country. Since we came to government, we put a number of policy responses in place to deal with that, including a huge investment in renewable energy so that we can secure the jobs, the opportunities, the investments that come in this space. And there is more work to do, and in the meantime we're supporting households with cost of living pressure through energy bill rebates, investment in Medicare, investment in childcare and investment in housing.
Thank you, Minister. Senator Mackenzie, first supplementary.
On David Spear's ABC podcast this week, former Treasury Secretary Ken Henry said, if you have to provide a permanent or semi-permanent rebate for something, then you're saying that your policy settings are wrong, your energy policy settings are wrong. Given that the government's only answer to soaring energy prices is an unsustainable rebate, do you agree with Mr Henry that the government's energy policy settings are wrong?
Thank you, Senator Mackenzie. Order. Order. Minister Gallagher.
Thank you. Well, I accept that there has been costs to delay of the decade of waste that we had under the former government. But since we came to power, we have increased the amount of energy available in the grid. We have provided support to households as the transition occurs. We have put in place more renewable energy into the system, which is the cheapest form of energy as this transition occurs.
Minister, please resume your seat. Order on my left. I ensured that Senator Mackenzie was shown the respect and could ask her question in silence. That is exactly what should be forwarded to the minister. I understand she's finished answering her question. Senator Mackenzie, if you'd put your second supplementary.
When asked about the government's energy subsidies in May, the Treasurer said, and I quote, "We only extended it for 6 months rather than 12 months because we know that at some point this electricity bill relief will taper away and will have to end." What is the government's plan to ensure Australians aren't slugged again with even higher energy prices next year when the subsidies are scheduled to end?
Thank you, Senator Mackenzie. Minister Gallagher.
Thank you. We'll continue to invest in our energy system, whether that be through the work that's been led by Minister King or Minister Bowen or Minister Ayres. We operate in the national interest, making sure that we're making decisions for the long term and to support households in the short term.
Thank you, Minister. Senator Marielle Smith.
Thanks, President. I rise to ask the question those opposite refused me on Thursday, denying South Australian women vital information about crucial health reforms which were introduced last Saturday. But now I put my question again. My question is to the Minister for Women, Senator Gallagher. The Albanese Labor government's new health measures commenced on Saturday, November 1, with the government delivering record investments in women's health. What impact are these reforms having for Australian women, and how do they reflect the Albanese Labor government's commitment to listening to women and improving access, choice and lower costs for health care?
Thank you, Senator Smith. Minister Gallagher.
Thank you, President. And I thank Senator Smith for the question, and at least you have been able to ask that question today, and also acknowledge the work that you've done in your time, particularly in the last parliament, investing in women's health and making sure that women of Australia get a better deal when it comes to support for perimenopause, menopause, but also the broader women's health policy that we took to the last election. For the first time on November 1, so on Saturday, Labor expanded bulk billing incentives to all Australians, creating a new additional incentive payment for practices that bulk bill every patient. And from this week, practices and GPs registering for the bulk billing practice incentive program will equally share in the additional incentive payment of 12.5%. We know that women visit GP more often and have higher out-of-pocket costs, but they will benefit from that big investment in bulk billing. Labor's women's health package is delivering what women have been asking for: better access, more choice, lower costs, after years of their health issues being ignored and not addressed under the former government. The Albanese Labor government is working to reverse a decade of neglect to women's health with $792.9 million to deliver more choice, lower costs and better health care for women. Women have asked the government to take their health care seriously, and we have listened. These changes could save women and their families thousands of dollars across their lifetime, and from November 1, women will have better access to affordable contraceptive options thanks to the Albanese government's landmark women's health package. We know that 1 in 10 Australian women using a long-term contraceptive compared to 1 in 8 women in New Zealand and 1 in 7 in Ireland and 1 in 3 in Sweden. So providing more options for those contraception will allow more choice for women to consider their contraceptive options.
Thank you, Minister. Senator Smith, first supplementary.
Thank you, Minister. The Albanese Labor government has listed new contraceptives on the PBS for the first time in over 30 years and has made long-acting reversible contraception more accessible and affordable from November 1. How are these changes improving choice and lowering costs for women seeking contraceptive options?
Minister Gallagher.
Thank you, and I thank Senator Smith for the question. And if we just look at one of those contraceptive options, NuvaRing is available now on the PBS from the 1st of November, providing a new affordable option for women. And before the listing of NuvaRing on the PBS, women might have paid more than $270 a year. Now they will pay $31.60 per script, or $7.70 if they have a concessional arrangement. This follows the first PBS listings for new oral contraceptive pills in more than 30 years. As Senator Smith said, I think for most of us we scratch our head at the fact that new contraceptives weren't listed on the PBS for 3 decades. We've also listed Yaz, Yasmin and Slinda on the PBS. Again, women were paying around $380 per year for their contraceptive if they were using one of those 3 choices. Now they're paying less than half of that, $126.40, or just $30.80 a year with a concession card.
Thank you, Minister. Senator Smith, second supplementary.
Thank you, Minister. This information is hugely important to women across Australia. Last week we marked the end of World Menopause Awareness Month. How are the Albanese Labor government's investments in menopause and perimenopause, including the new Medicare rebates, PBS listings for therapies and funding for clinical guidelines and training, supporting women's health and raising national awareness of these important issues?
Thank you, Senator Smith. Minister Gallagher.
Thank you, and I think Senator Smith should be very proud of the work that the Senate committee did in relation to treatment of perimenopause and menopause, because it has directly influenced some of the decisions the government's taken about listing those new drugs. Again, hadn't been listed for 20 years. Again, women were out of pocket for those. We've also established a new Medicare rebate for menopause health assessments. Over 20,000 women have undergone a menopause health assessment covered by Medicare since they became available on the 1st of July. So in just 4 months, 20,000 women have been able to access that new item. We've also, as Senator Smith said, got the new guidelines in place, and of course all of our policy has been influenced as well by the work that the member for Cooper, Minister Carney, did last election, and also by the National Women's Health Advisory Council, who led a lot of those consultations. It's time that we got this job done, and we're doing it.
Thank you, Minister. Senator Whitten.
Thank you, President. My question is to the Minister representing the Minister for Agriculture, Fisheries and Forestry, Minister McCarthy. The Danish government has introduced mandates to use Bovea 10 to reduce methane production in its dairy industry to meet climate targets. Is Labor considering similar measures for dairy and livestock in Australia?
Thank you, Senator Whitten. Senator McCarthy.
Thank you, President. Thank you, Senator, for the question. The answer is no, but we are introducing methane as additives.
Thank you, Minister. Senator Whitten, first supplementary.
Bovea 10 is already in use in Australia, with some of our major retailers sourcing meat grown with the additive. There is no requirement to label milk or meat as containing Bovea 10, limiting customers' ability to choose. Does Labor believe that Australians' right to know what is in their food is secondary to the perceived climate impacts of cow burps?
Thank you, Senator Whitten. Minister McCarthy.
Thank you, President. Well, can I just put on the record for the Senate that this government always wants Australians to know about most things, Senator. So I would certainly object to the introduction of your question there. But we are certainly, well, no, that's not quite true. But anyway, supporting introduction of methane and reducing additives, as I've said. Yep.
Thank you, Minister. Senator Whitten, second supplementary.
Since the introduction of Bovea 10 mandates in Denmark, starting 1st of October 25, there have been increased reports of cattle becoming sick, collapsing and in some cases being euthanised. Are Australians at risk from these additives in their food?
Thank you, Senator Whitten. Minister McCarthy.
Senator, sorry, President. Senator, I do believe I've answered the questions, but I'm happy to take some more on notice in terms of any particular examples that you may have for the Minister.
Thank you, Minister. Senator Waters.
Thank you, President. My question is to the Minister for the Environment, allegedly, Senator Watt. Minister, the Climate Council has
Senator
said—
Waters, Senator Waters, I'm going to ask you to withdraw
I withdraw.
that. Thank you.
Minister, the Climate Council has said that, quote, the government's proposed environment reforms have a number of gaping problems. They fail to address climate pollution, the biggest threat to the environment. They will undermine our climate progress by denying the government power to limit climate pollution from massive fossil fuel projects, and they may speed up fossil fuel project approvals despite the harm they cause, end quote. Minister, you've had multiple opportunities. Why won't you rule out fast-tracking coal and gas under these new laws?
Minister Watt.
Thank you, President, and thank you, Senator Waters. I'm very honoured to hold the role of Federal Minister for the Environment in a party that is the party of delivering real environmental reform. We've never seen a Greens party deliver stopping the Franklin Dam, stopping mining in Antarctica, protecting Kakadu, protecting Murujuga. In fact, the Greens party campaigned against World Heritage listing of Murujuga only a few months ago. So very, very honoured to hold the role, supporting federal Labor's policies when it comes to the environment. And as Senator Waters knows, when she puts her political rhetoric aside just for a little moment, what she knows is that the laws that we've introduced to the parliament deliver real gains for the environment, things like national environmental standards that have never been part of our law, things like requiring proponents to avoid and mitigate environmental harm.
Minister Wong.
I have misheard the Leader of the Greens interjecting in what was quite an unparliamentary way, and I'd ask her to demonstrate perhaps a little more leadership than that.
Senator Waters, I didn't hear anything. It is hard to hear up here, but if you did make an unparliamentary remark, I'd ask you to withdraw it.
I can take a point of order, President. The minister was asserting that he knew what my understanding was.
Senator
he does
Waters,
not,
Senator
so I
Waters,
retaliated.
Senator Waters,
so if I withdraw, he should too.
Senator Waters, you are getting into a debate. Order on my right. You're getting into a debating point. If you made the unparliamentary remark, which you said you did, I want you to just stand up and withdraw it. Thank you.
I withdraw, but the minister should know that I am a trained environmental lawyer.
Senator Waters, please resume your
seat.
We're going to try it for the third time. When you withdraw, you simply withdraw. It doesn't have statements around it. If anyone in this place makes unparliamentary language, they're just asked to withdraw.
Thank you, President. I did withdraw. I'd now like to make a separate point of order.
No, Senator Waters, yes.
President, and I'm intending to do so now.
Just a moment. Just indulge me, Senator Waters. I'd like you to withdraw the comment and then seek the call again.
Time. I withdraw.
Thank you.
I'd now like to raise a point of order,
certainly,
which is the minister breaching standing orders by purporting to understand what my understanding and intent is. That's
Senator
in breach
Waters,
of the standing orders.
you are getting into the territory of debating.
Well, what are the standing orders for, President?
Thank you, Senator Waters. Please resume your seat. I'm going to have you finished your contribution, Minister.
Senator Waters knows that there are demonstrable gains for the environment in these reforms. She chooses to misrepresent the laws. That's a matter for her.
Senator Waters, first supplementary.
President, can I just clarify, was that the minister's actual answer to my question about whether he would rule out coal and gas fast-tracks under these laws? Was that his answer? Has he
finished? Ask me to make judgments about questions. You're perfectly capable of doing that yourself.
Has the minister concluded his first answer or not?
Senator Waters, you are on your feet. I've invited you, and the reason you're on your feet is I've invited you to put your first supplementary. So that would indicate that the minister has finished his question.
Okay, I'll give the minister a second opportunity because he continually fails to take it. Minister, will you rule out fast-tracking coal and gas projects under these new laws?
Minister Watt.
These laws provide a range of ways for projects to be fast-tracked. We know that projects are being held up in red tape, including in particular housing and renewables projects. They also provide very strong protections for our environment, and that's why both the Greens and the Coalition should support the reforms.
Thank you, Minister. Senator Waters, second supplementary.
So this perhaps is why Chevron, BHP and the Minerals Council are loving these reforms. Can the minister rule out doing a dirty deal on these critical reforms with the chaos monkeys over here, the coal-loving, climate-denying, pro-emissions coalition?
I'm going to ask you to withdraw. Please withdraw that comment. You simply— It's senators in this chamber, Senator Waters, so I'd ask you to withdraw that comment.
The chaotic senators, President.
No, Senator Waters. Well, you're being disrespectful to me because I did ask you simply to withdraw. Thank you, Senator Waters. Senator Waters, have you finished your question? I don't think you have you, or have you? Yes? Okay, Minister.
I'm not quite sure what the question was, but it's interesting that we see Senator Waters make something of parties working with the Coalition when it was only last Thursday that we saw the Greens vote with the Coalition to disrupt the convention here around question time. It was only before the election that we saw the Greens vote with the Coalition to stop environmental reform happening.
Watt, please resume your seat. Senator Waters.
President, a point of order on relevance. I'm asking about environment reforms. I know the minister feels deeply uncomfortable about what he's proposing, or at least he should. But I would like him to answer the question.
Please don't get into a debate. I will draw the minister to your question. Minister Watt.
Well, as I was saying, speaking of environmental reform, it was only a few months ago that we saw the Greens party vote with the Coalition to block these environmental reforms happening, just like they did last time Labor was in government as well. Now, it's news to me that BP, Chevron and the Minerals Council have supported these reforms. I haven't seen that.
Minister Watt, please resume your seat. Senator Hanson-Young.
Thank you, President. I'd just like you to draw your attention to the minister's gross misrepresentation of what occurred in the Senate. There was no vote. The government withdrew their bill. You can't purport a vote.
Senator Hanson-Young, please resume your seat. Senator Hanson-Young, for the third time, resume your seat. The Minister, those are debating points. Minister Watt.
What I have noticed in the last few days is support for these reforms from the Housing Industry Association, the Clean Energy Council and the AI Group, and it's those kind of groups that the Coalition of the Greens should be listening to so that we can deliver the renewables our country needs, along with the housing and along with the environmental protections that we need.
Thank you. Senator Hanson-Young.
Thank you, President. I would just ask you to reflect—
Why are you standing?
It's a point of order. You're the President. It's a point of order I'm making to you. And
you need to say that when you stand, Senator Hanson.
It's a request to you, President, and I'd ask you to reflect on the ruling you just made about whether a minister can misrepresent a vote that has occurred.
Senator Hanson-Young, I will certainly reflect, but I indicated to you that you were getting into the realm of making statements. So I have the government on my list for question 5. Senator Mulholland.
Thank you, President. My question is to the Minister representing the Minister for Climate Change and Energy, Senator Ayres. The Albanese Labor government is committed to addressing climate change in line with the international community. This means taking practical actions on emissions and seizing the opportunities our abundant minerals and renewable resources offer. What progress is the Albanese Labor government making on addressing climate change? And what are the economic risks if we fail to act in line with our international partners?
Minister Ayres.
Thank you very much, President. Well, thanks, Senator Mulholland, for that question. Twice now, Australian voters have endorsed the Albanese government's practical policies to reduce emissions and to modernise our electricity system. We take that endorsement of our approach earnestly, and approaching this task absolutely in the Australian national interest. Australians want to see Australia part of the international community, the government listening to the science, reducing our emissions while we strengthen the economy. We are tracking well to meet our 2030 climate target. In the year to March, emissions were 440 million tonnes of carbon dioxide equivalent, 6.5 million tonnes lower than the year before and 28% below 2005 levels. The risk to that approach, President, is a return to the policy chaos and the investment drought, indeed disinvestment, that happened in Australian industry and the Australian electricity system under those opposite. And the efforts that we see for them to reconcile themselves with their approach is becoming very, very clear this week. They are all about themselves, not about the country. All about their internals, not about additional electrons. And nothing demonstrates that more than the opposition spokesman, Mr Tehan, who after their meeting said that the critical thing for them was to develop a pathway to bring us all together, he said. All about their internals, not about engineering and science. And then he went on to say—
Thank you, Minister. The time for asking has expired. Senator, just before I call you, Senator Mulholland, I am going to call you. There you go. Keep you on your toes. First supplementary.
Thank you. A central part of the Albanese Labor government's agenda for addressing climate change is building an expanded, clean and affordable energy system. What progress is the Albanese Labor government making on building a modern energy system, and what parts of the community are already benefiting from this?
Thank you, Senator Mulholland. Minister Ayres.
Well, President, and thanks, Senator Mulholland. On Friday, the opposition spokesman for Climate and Energy said the priority was a pathway to bring us all together. Well, look how that's going this week. Look how that's going this week. He then went on to say exactly what that looks like We are all working through it. But it's all about the politics, all about the internal politics of grievance and anger, all of the social media meme-driven silliness that's driving the approach over here, not actually carefully, systematically, in a disciplined way that provides certainty for the investment community, doing the work that is required to do what has happened just this year. Wholesale prices falling 27% compared with this time last year.
Senator Mulholland, second supplementary.
The Albanese Labor government is making sure that its emissions reduction agenda drives the creation of new clean energy industries and benefits existing industry. How will the Albanese Labor government's climate change policies build new industry, and what are the risks to existing industry if these policies are unsuccessful?
Minister Ayres.
Well, this is hard work in the national interest. It involves using the machinery of government, working with the private sector to deliver real outcomes. $5 billion in the Net Zero Fund from the National Reconstruction Fund, an additional $2 billion for the Clean Energy Finance Corporation, $1.1 billion for low-carbon liquid fuels. And what this is all about, is offering industry the support and encouragement it needs to invest in a modern electricity system fit for purpose in what are going to be tough decades in front of Australia. It is delivering for blue-collar regions and blue-collar suburbs in a way that meaningfully deals with the economic challenges and drives the investment that we need for the future. We are going to get on with the job. Those opposite will get on with the politics of arguing with each other.
Thank you, Minister. Senator Thorpe, just before I come to you, I'm going to welcome our New Zealand friends. So I draw to the attention of honourable senators the presence in the chamber of the parliamentary delegation from the New Zealand Parliament, led by the Speaker, Right Honourable Jerry Brownlee. On behalf of all senators, I wish you a warm welcome to Australia and in particular to the Senate. And with the concurrence of honourable senators, I invite the Speaker to take a seat on the floor of the Senate.
Thank you. Just quick show of hands.
Thank you, Senator Thorpe. If you ask your question now.
Thank you. Maybe you could talk about treaty in this country. My question is for the Minister for Environment, Minister Watt. Minister, will you commit to introducing a standalone First Nations engagement and participation standard before EPBC reforms are legislated?
Thank you, Senator Thorpe. Minister Watt.
Thanks, President. Thanks, Senator Thorpe. My department has been working very actively on the development of a First Nations engagement standard, which is a really important part of these reforms. We're not actually able to create any new national environmental standards until this bill is passed, because one of the things the bill does is give the Minister of the Day the power to make national environmental standards. Nevertheless, we are developing those standards and we'll be consulting them on them over the next few weeks. But of course, the best thing that anyone who wants to see those standards created could do is to vote for these bills, which will give a minister power to make those standards in the first place.
Thank you, Minister Watt. Senator Thorpe, first supplementary.
Thank you. Well, free, prior and informed consent must occur before any standard. So why are you going against First Peoples' free, prior and informed consent continuously, which is violated by Labor?
Thank you, Senator Thorpe. Minister Watt.
I'm not quite sure what Senator Thorpe is referring to there. Happy to discuss that with you, Senator Thorpe. As I say, we are already drafting national environmental standards, including regarding First Nations engagement, even though we haven't got the power to create those standards, because we want to get moving on them when this bill is passed, and I'm very confident that it will be passed either with the support of the Coalition or the Greens.
Thank you, Minister. Senator Thorpe, second supplementary.
Well, my question was about violating free, prior and informed consent, destroying sacred sites, destroying water and country. You spoke about protecting Murujuga. Now, the people of Murujuga say otherwise. So in the national interest, you as minister, will you desecrate and destroy, continue to desecrate and destroy sacred sites?
Thank you, Senator Thorpe. Minister Watt.
No, I certainly won't. And in fact, I, along with all members of this government, will do everything we can to protect sacred sites for First Nations people. Now, I know that in some quarters there is a narrative that traditional owners in Murujuga are unhappy with the way the government has acted. As with every group, there are some people in favour, some people are not, but the representative group of traditional owners in Murujuga has supported the government's actions, and I was standing side by side with them when we secured World Heritage listing for Murujuga.
So I'm looking for Senator Bragg.
Very much. Thank you very much. My question is to the Minister representing the Prime Minister, Senator Wong. We're now 1 month since your government opened up the 5% deposit scheme to every first home buyer, and the effects are clear. In new numbers released today by data house Coality, they reveal the pace of growth in Australian home values has accelerated by 1.1%, the fastest gain in years. The price hike was steepest amongst the entry and middle parts of the market, which rose 1.2% and 1.4% respectively. Why does your government think it's a good idea to make entry and middle-level houses less affordable for first home buyers?
Thank you, Senator Bragg. Minister Wong.
Thank you, President. Can I welcome the Speaker as well? I welcome to our Parliament. We'll try and be polite now, sir. Senator Bragg, we fundamentally just don't agree with the proposition that you put forward, which is that somehow it is a bad thing to assist first home buyers through this deposit scheme. Of course, that is not the only thing the government is doing. The government also recognises the importance of increasing supply, which is why we have a very ambitious housing supply addition to housing supply as part of our policies.
Thank you, Minister. Senator Bragg, first supplementary.
Thank you very much. This entry-level house hike was entirely predictable. Indeed, the Prime Minister himself admitted the Treasury advised Labor that their changes would send house prices up, whilst the RBA Governor told Senate estimates that the scheme will not only send up house prices but result in higher repayments for first home buyers. Why does the government knowingly implement policies that makes housing less affordable for first home buyers?
Thank you, Senator Bragg. Minister Wong.
Well, thank you. The answer is we don't. The 5% deposit was the subject of advice, and the facts are that lending rules and serviceability requirements stay the same, and the Treasury advice indicated that the impact on house prices would be minor. And recall also, Senator, that this is only one part of a comprehensive suite of housing policies, including the addition of supply.
Thank you, Minister. Senator Bragg, second supplementary.
Thank you very much. Since your government expanded the deposit scheme on October 1, entry-level property has almost doubled, the rate of other properties. Coality's Research Director Tim Lawless has pinned this on your policy, saying stronger housing demand at the lower price points is likely a culmination of multiple factors, including the quote, "What is likely a pickup in first home buyers taking advantage of the expanded deposit guarantee scheme?" End quote. Can you explain why your government—
Senator Bragg, the time for answering has expired. Minister Wong.
Well, Senator, we are helping more Australians into their own home. We're training more tradespeople. We're kick-starting construction. We're helping first home buyers. And in fact, my recollection is we have seen building approvals up over the last year and commencements also higher than they were a year ago, which is an indication that the policies that we are putting in place, which were opposed by you, are having an effect on the market.
Thank you, Minister. Senator Roberts. I'll just advise the chamber. I understand Senator Babet has given his question to One Nation.
Correct.
Thank you, Senator Roberts.
Thank you, President. My question is to the Minister representing the Minister for Home Affairs, Senator Watt. Minister, regarding humanitarian visas, in the 2024-25 financial year or the 2024 calendar year, What are the top 5 countries of origin of refugees to which your government granted humanitarian visas?
Thank you, Senator Roberts. Minister Watt.
Thanks, President. Thanks, Senator Roberts. I don't have that level of detail with me, but happy to come back to you on notice.
Thank you, Minister. Senator Roberts, first supplementary.
Minister, in that period, how many refugee visas were granted overall in the period, and how many of those were issued to Nigerian Christians and South African farmers?
Thank you, Senator Roberts. Minister Watt.
Again, I'll come back to you on notice.
Senator Roberts, second supplementary.
Thank you, President. Minister, Islamic cultures and cultures foreign to Australia need a lot of work to integrate into our country, yet your government's refugee program disproportionately favours Islamic and foreign cultures over Christians who have a similar culture to Australia's. Minister, why does your government's refugee program deliberately exclude Christians who are being slaughtered as we speak?
Thank you, Senator Roberts. Minister Watt.
Well, Senator Roberts, I'm not quite sure that you're telling the truth there. I have said that I will come back to you on notice with the facts, but Australia has had a non-discriminatory immigration policy for many decades, which has been supported up until now, at least, by the Liberal Party. I'm not quite sure what their position is on these matters these days, but we remain proudly in support of a non-discriminatory migration policy, and it will remain that way under Labor as long as we're in government.
Senator Hanson-Young.
Thank you. My question is to the Minister for Environment, Senator Watt. Over the weekend, we saw the National Party abandon future generations of Australians when they dumped net zero and undermined Australia's relationship with our region. You have repeatedly said that you don't mind who you do a deal with when it comes to your environment laws. Really? You don't care? You're prepared to do a deal with the climate-denying environmental wreckers of the coalition, don't you? What does that say, Minister, about the principles of your government, that you're prepared to do a deal with these climate deniers, environmental wreckers? What does that say about the principles of the Labor Party?
Thank you, Senator Hanson-Young. Minister Watt.
Well, as I said last week, Senator Hanson-Young, I have one very easy suggestion for any member of the Greens party who doesn't want to see us pass these laws with the support of the coalition, and that's that the Greens party could actually back Labor to achieve environmental reform. Not continue the blocking that we saw from you under in the last term, where you blocked housing, where you blocked environmental reform and teamed up with the coalition to do it. How about you stand up for the environment and back environmental reform in the way that we're putting forward?
Thank you, Minister. Senator Hanson-Young.
Thank you.
Senator Hanson-Young, let me finish. First supplementary.
Thank you. Minister, I've just listened carefully to your answer. Your laws have been written to appease the climate-wrecking, environment-wrecking coalition and their mates in the fossil fuel industry. What now do you think about the risk that these on the other side pose to Australia's renewable energy industry and investment?
Thank you, Senator Hanson-Young. Minister Watt.
Well, I obviously keep reading different newspapers to the Greens party because I don't see the mining companies jumping for joy about our reforms, because they can see that we are actually requiring stronger environmental standards in these laws than currently exist. And that's one of the reasons why, silly me, I would have thought the Greens party might support laws that actually deliver gains for the environment. But of course what we know about the Greens party is that they're more about the politics than the outcome.
Thank you, Minister Watt. Senator Hanson-Young, second supplementary.
Through you, President. Minister, do your laws make it easier and cheaper for coal and gas to get approved?
Thank you, Senator Hanson-Young. Minister Watt.
What our laws do is deliver national environmental standards for the first time we've ever seen in Australia law. What our laws do is lift the penalties on business when they breach the law when it comes to the environment. What our laws do is require proponents by law to avoid and mitigate environmental impacts before they offset their environment. And what our laws do require proponents of projects to deliver a net gain for the environment when it comes to environmental offsets. There are just 4 reasons of the many reasons why the Greens should support these laws, but we know they're always more interested in grandstanding.
Thank you. Senator O'Sullivan.
Thank you very much, President. My question is to the Minister representing the Minister for Infrastructure, Transport, Regional Development and Local Government, Senator McCarthy. The Albanese Labor government has a plan to lower speed limits in regional Australia and is currently consulting on this. The consultation documents clearly state speed reduction reforms options include sealed roads down to 70 kilometres per hour and unsealed roads down to 70 kilometres per hour. On the 31st of October 2025, the Minister for Regional Development, Local Government and Territories, Minister McBain, was asked by the ABC Ballarat reporter, even if this got up with the 70-kilometre limit, this would not apply to highways and well-used country roads that have a speed limit of 100 already, wouldn't it? Minister McBain's reply was no. This is all around those unsealed roads. Minister, isn't it a fact the government's consultation includes lowering speed limits on all sealed roads, and why did Minister McBain mislead the people of regional Victoria?
Thank you, Senator O'Sullivan. Minister McCarthy.
Thank you, President, and I thank the senator for the question. We do know that each state and territory makes laws in regards to what their roads are going to be about in terms of speed limits and in terms of the funding that they wish to put into those roads. We know that under Labor, regional Australia is firmly getting its fair share, and we're investing in safer roads, stronger local economies and fairer funding for every community. And I know the ministers of the Albanese Labor government are doing their utmost, both the minister I represent in Catherine King, but also in Minister McBain, to ensure safer roads across Australia.
Thank you, Minister. Senator O'Sullivan, first supplementary.
Thank you, President. I was only asking about the consultation, but anyway, was the Minister for Regional Development, Local Government and Territories unaware of the details of the government's consultation process prior to speaking to ABC Ballarat? Or is the government deliberately seeking to mislead regional Australians about their plans to lower speeds on sealed and unsealed country roads? Very precise question, Minister.
Thank you, Senator O'Sullivan. Minister McCarthy.
Thank you, President. And I thank the senator for the question. And I will say this, that in terms of Minister McBain and her many interviews, I am more than happy to seek some further advice from the minister in regards to Ballarat.
Senator O'Sullivan, second supplementary.
Thank you, President. Thank you, Minister. When the lower speed limit proposal was put to the former coalition government, we didn't implement it. So why is the government now proposing to reduce regional speed limits instead of just fixing the roads?
That's a great question. Thank you, Senator O'Sullivan. Minister McCarthy.
Thank you, President. Well, I certainly have said in the Senate, even as early as last Thursday in regards to question time, about our investment in roads and regional roads across Australia, but I am more than happy to take the advice of the minister and get back to you, Senator.
Thank you, Minister McCarthy. Senator McKim. Order. Senator McKim is on his feet.
Thanks very much, President. My question is to the so-called Minister for the Environment, Senator Watt.
Senator McKim, if you withdraw that, please.
I do withdraw that. Minister, these questions are in regards to your rewrite of Australia's environment laws that has got big polluters like BHP and Chevron so excited they are literally begging for them to be passed this year. Minister, the Samuel Review recommended removing the exemption for native forest logging done under an RFA. Our forests are beautiful and complex ecosystems that are home to threatened species like the koala and the swift parrot. They are precious Aboriginal cultural heritage. They are massive banks of carbon that help in the fight against climate breakdown. So, Minister, why did you ignore Professor Samuel's recommendation? Why are you not scrapping the RFA loophole, or even better, why are you not ending the loss-making, environmentally catastrophic native forest logging industry once and for all?
Minister Watt.
We've said that we remain committed to implementing Graham Samuel's recommendation that the national environmental standards should be applied to regional forestry agreements. We've said we're committed to doing that, and we remain committed to doing that.
Senator McKean, first supplementary.
Well, Professor Samuel recommended scrapping the loophole. Minister, deforestation is also driven by the continuous use exemption for land clearing, which has, coupled with under-enforcement of illegal land clearing, resulted in about 1 million hectares of land cleared in Queensland alone since Labor took office. Why is your government not closing that gaping loophole?
Thank you, Senator McKim. Minister Watt.
Because our priority is passing reforms based on Graham Samuel's recommendations, and that should be the Greens' priority as well.
Senator McKim, second supplementary.
Well, your priority, Minister, actually should be protecting the environment. That's your job, and that's what you should be doing. Minister, in your entire package, you haven't mentioned the F word once: forests. Why are you so scared to mention forests, let alone do anything to rein in the massive carbon emissions and biodiversity loss caused by native forest logging and by land clearing?
Senator McKenzie, come to order. 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 Senator Watt.
Well, I'm so scared about using the word forest that in this very answer I mentioned that we remain committed to applying national environmental standards to regional forestry agreements. I'm so scared about it that I said it in Senate estimates, that I've said it several times since becoming the minister, and I'll say it one more time: we will be applying the national environmental standards to forests.
Thank you, Minister. Senator McDonald.
Thank you. My question is to the Minister representing the Prime Minister, Senator Wong. Can the minister explain why the Albanese government's full compliance rate with orders for the production of documents has plummeted to just 17% in the current parliament?
Minister Wong.
Thank you, Senator McDonald. Thank you for the question. I would make the point that this parliament passes many more requirements on the government of the day than any previous government. An interesting statistic is that since the last election, more orders for the production of documents have been agreed to in 19 sitting days than in the parliaments of the Fisher, Hughes, Bruce, Scullin, Lyons, Page, the first Menzies, Fadden, Curtin, Ford, Chifley, second Menzies, Holt, McEwen, Gorton, McMahon, Whitlam, Fraser and Hawke governments combined. So I would make the point, Senator, the way in which this chamber chooses to use OPDs, as someone who has been here a very long time, frankly, is far more extensive, more onerous and a much lower bar to put up an OPD than any previous parliament. We have sought to comply with the orders which have been placed upon us, but I would make the point, if you continue at this rate, there is no government that can meet this volume of OPDs, as this Senate is putting in place, in its entirety. It's as simple as that. If you have more in the last period than all of those governments put together, it does tell you something about what the Senate is choosing to do.
Senator McDonald, first supplementary.
Given that 43% of orders for documents in the current parliament have not yet been complied with at all, the highest rate of non-compliance across at least 3 parliaments, does the minister accept that Labor is systematically blocking the Senate's right to scrutinise government decisions, and when will the government comply with the outstanding 40 orders?
Thank you, Senator McDonald. Minister Wong.
This government has complied with the most OPDs of any government in Australia's history.
Senator McDonald, second supplementary.
Minister, the Albanese government has raised public interest immunity claims in relation to 54% of all orders that have been partially or not complied with in this parliament, with cabinet deliberations being claimed in 62% of those cases. In 2020, Minister, you said, and I quote, "The government can't simply make that claim because the document was walked through a cabinet room or has the word cabinet on it." Do you still agree with that statement?
Well said. Thank you, Senator McDonald. Minister Wong.
Senator, thank you through you, President. And that was my recollection was there were stories about your government just rolling trolleys into the cabinet room. In order to gain cabinet confidentiality. And what I can say to you, in terms of what I have seen, it may not be true, Senator McKenzie, it was folklore. It was folklore. But did she just say I was right? She might have just said I was right. What I can say to you, Senator, is as a cabinet minister, from what I have seen, where that has been claimed in relate. Sorry, do people want an answer or not? Thank you, Murray. There you go. From what I have seen as a senior cabinet minister in this government, when we have claimed cabinet in confidence, I believe that has been legitimate. I really do. And you may chuckle, but I believe it is true. And what I would say to you is, I know that I wish I almost would want an extension of time.
The time for answering has expired.
Do you think I can extend?
Senator Askew.
Thank you, President. My question is to the Minister representing the Minister for Health and Ageing, Senator McAllister. Minister, according to an article published today in the Herald Sun, only 13% of metropolitan GP clinics will bulk bill under the government's new program. That means the vast majority of patients in metropolitan areas will continue to face rising out-of-pocket costs, currently at an average of $49.14. How does this achieve the Prime Minister's promise to all Australians, made on at least 71 occasions, that they can see a GP for free?
Thank you, Senator Askew. Minister McAllister.
Thank you very much, President. And I am very pleased to be asked about the historic investment that our government is making to repair the damage inflicted on Medicare, inflicted on bulk billing by those opposite during the long period where they froze the rebates available to doctors and saw the rate of bulk billing in free fall.
Senator Patterson and McKenzie. Have you finished, Minister?
No, I have not.
Oh, please resume.
And it is simply true that at the time of your government, bulk billing rates, according to the Royal Australian College of GPs, were in free fall. And the numbers cited by Senator Hume were cooked up by relying on the bulk billing rates that were produced by COVID. But in fact, it had never been harder. It had never been harder to see a doctor, and it is on that basis that we are making the investment we are making.
Senator Ruston.
Thank you very much, President. On a point of relevance, I don't believe that Senator Askew was asking about anything that the minister is actually contributing at the moment. Could you maybe draw her back to the questions around bulk billing that was a specific reason about out-of-pocket costs on bulk billing, not something that happened historically?
Thank you, Senator Ruston. The minister is being relevant to the question. Minister, did you wish to continue? Senator Askew, first supplementary.
Thank you. Minister, according to Health Department officials, the current average out-of-pocket cost for a GP appointment is $49.14 and will continue to go up. However, the Prime Minister continues to tell all Australians that they can see a GP for free. Is the Prime Minister wrong, or is the Health Department?
Thank you, Senator Askew. Minister McAllister.
Thank you, President. Well, we are determined to lift rates of bulk billing. That is why we are making these investments, Senator Askew, and we are very pleased that already over 1,000 practices that were previously mixed billing have indicated that they are interested in becoming fully bulk billing practices. And what that means is that more Australians will be able to see a doctor for free.
Senator Askew, second supplementary.
The Prime Minister continues to tell all Australians that they can see a GP for free. If that is true, when will the average GP out-of-pocket cost be down to $0?
Thank you, Senator Askew. Minister McAllister.
President, thank you again for the question. I can only restate our intention, which is this. We want more Australians to see a doctor for free. That is the promise of universal health care. That is the promise that Australians voted for when they voted for our government, and it is on that basis that we are making the largest single investment in Medicare since the inception of that program, and it is all to repair the damage that was done by the government that you supported and many of you were part of.
Thank you, Minister. Senator Hodgins-May.
Thank you, President. My question is to the Minister for the Environment, Senator Watt. The Wilderness Society said that the Environment Protection Reform Bills would increase opportunities for political influence on decisions and use new loopholes to weaken nature protections. Without an independent EPA making decisions and both major parties continuing to accept political donations from fossil fuel corporations, have you received legal advice about higher corruption risks under the new laws?
Thank you, Senator Hodgins-May. Minister Watt.
Thank you, President. Thank you, Senator. I find it interesting that the Greens Party have asked a question about the risk of the EPA not having independent decision-making powers when I was reading a newspaper report only a couple of weeks ago where the Greens spokesperson for the environment was saying that they supported the minister having decision-making powers rather than the EPA. So I'm not quite sure if there's a disagreement there between Green senators, but frankly this is the one point that we do have agreement on across the entire parliament, and I look forward to many more.
Senator Hodgins-May, first supplementary.
Non-answer. Thank you. The Wilderness Society also described the bills as a piece of Swiss cheese riddled with loopholes that would enable rampant deforestation and species extinctions to continue at pace. Will the government close the many loopholes that provide get-out-of-coal-free cards for projects that do not meet environmental standards?
Thank you, Senator Hodgins-May. Minister Watt.
Well, I don't think it's surprising at this stage of the debate that different groups have things that they would like to see changed in the legislation. We've seen comments from business groups, we've seen comments from environment groups. We will weigh all that up. But one thing I can guarantee you is that we will pass these laws. We will pass laws that protect the environment and do better for business, and we will either do it with the Greens Party or the Coalition.
Senator Hodgins-May, second supplementary.
Yeah, not one group backing you. You selectively choose lines to include in your email blasts. Ridiculous. The Wilderness Society has called for the removal of the continuous use loophole that it says has been used to clear 1 million hectares in Queensland alone under the Albanese government. 1 million hectares. Will the government remove the Section 43B continuous use exemption so that agricultural clearing cannot continue to destroy habitat and drive extinctions without scrutiny?
Thank you, Senator Hodgins-May. Minister Watt.
Well, in Senator Hodgins-May's question, she cited some of the comments from environment groups. I can only assume that she's referring to the press release from the Australian Conservation Foundation, Greenpeace and the World Wildlife Fund, in which they said environment groups welcome new enforcement powers and increases in penalties for nature laws. That sounds like a degree of support from environment groups. Perhaps the Greens might like to listen.
Senator Hodgins-May.
Senator
Hanson-Young, I'd invite you to turn around to see one of your own senators on her feet, so you need to be quiet. Senator Hodgins-May.
Senator Watt, point of relevance, completely failed to answer the question. I'm hoping that he's attempting to have another crack because people are really disappointed.
Senator Ruston.
I seek leave to move a motion regarding the order of call during question time.
Is leave granted? Leave is not granted. Senator Ruston.
Contingent notice standing in the name of the Leader of the Opposition. I move that so much of standing orders be suspended that will prevent me from moving a motion to provide for consideration of a matter, namely a motion to give precedence to a motion relating to the order of business for the call for question time. Well, once again, we have seen those opposite decide that they're going to come into this chamber and have a childish response to a legitimate motion of the Senate, and it's incredibly, incredibly disappointing. You come in here and you make it sound like that never before has there ever been any attempt in this chamber for, to hold a government to account.
Senator Ruston, I'm very sorry. If you could resume your seat. Senator Ruston has moved a suspension and she will be heard in silence. And if you can't be silent, I invite you to leave the chamber. Senator Ruston, please continue.
Thank you very much, President. As I was saying, those opposites seem to want to rewrite history here and say that something like this has never occurred before, where a government has been held to account. But what I'd like to repeat once again, and I put it into Hansard last week, but Senator Wong was overseas and wasn't here, but I think it is entirely relevant that we read back into Hansard the commentary of Senator Wong in relation to a motion that the opposition at the time, which is now the government, sought to move at a time when they were accusing Senator Cormann of not being transparent. Senator Cormann not releasing a document that he had claimed he didn't wish to release. So let's be clear here. Their precedent is set already by those opposite for this particular issue. So just to remind those opposite, in case you've forgotten from last week, this is what Senator Wong had to say back in the 12th of February 2020, and I will quote, "It is entirely explicable why the government would have with such an attitude, though. Frankly, they're arrogant. They've been on a victory lap. They think they own the joint. They think that the last election was the last word on accountability. They think they're unbeatable and that no matter how badly they govern or abuse their office, they can get away with it. That's what they think, and it's reflected in their behaviour. I would remind government ministers that unchecked power never ends well." So they were the words of Senator Wong in relation to a matter when a much more aggressive, punitive action was threatened against Senator Cormann. So, quite simply, the easiest way for this impasse to be dealt with is the government to actually comply with an order that the minister who's responsible for this particular document that hasn't been provided to this chamber, despite this chamber, the majority members of this chamber, the numbers in this chamber, saying that she needed to actually provide this document, a document that she promised to release 2.5 years ago and still has not produced to date. Is actually a very sad indictment on the transparency of this government. But the most egregious thing that has happened in this chamber is the will of this chamber is continually is denied by those opposite. You know, you are behaving like the most arrogant government. You do not believe that you need to comply with the orders of this place. I mean, this chamber is sovereign. The orders of this chamber, the will of this chamber, should be adhered to. There were a number of people in this chamber, the overwhelming number of these people in this chamber
Senator Ruston, I have been listening carefully. I remind you that you are on a suspension and you need to demonstrate to the chamber why it's urgent that you need to put aside the procedures of the Senate to move the suspension.
The reason this suspension is particularly urgent is because there could be nothing more urgent in this place than a government that is abusing its power. And quite frankly, there is nothing more, nothing less than what is happening here. You were a government that came to power promising transparency and accountability, and all you have done is been completely non-transparent and unaccountable, and in the process of doing that you are abusing your power. And just to make things even worse, when the will of the chamber was expressed not in your favour, what did we hear last week? We hear that the leader of the government in the other place, Mr Burke, then threatened retribution.
Senator Ruston, you are drifting. The issue before the Senate right now is a suspension motion that you move. The suspension is saying to the chamber that this matter is so urgent that the rest of the business of the Senate must be put aside for this debate to continue. That's what you need to address.
Thank you very much, President, and thank you for your ruling. And as I said, the reason that I believe this suspension is urgent enough to be called at this particular time of the day is because we have a government that is abusing its power. Now, I do not understand how anybody in this chamber could not think that the abuse of power by a government was not probably the most serious or egregious thing that could actually occur in the Parliament of Australia. And so what we've got here is an ongoing demonstration of a refusal to provide information that is important to the Australian public. We saw last week a government that had refused to provide information, for example, about the incoming government brief about energy policy. The incoming government brief that said your energy policy is failing. It's failing, emissions are not going down and energy bills are going up. Nothing could be more important to Australians than their ability to pay their bills. Nothing could be more important to Australian businesses and the 1,000 people at Tomago about their jobs.
Ruston. Senator Wong.
Thank you, President. Well, that was a fairly expansive contribution to the Senate. I want to make a few points in response. No, it will be precise and to the point. The first is the senator seems to be very keen to quote me, which maybe I'll take as a compliment. But I would make the point that I have served in this chamber opposite Nick Minchin, Erica Betts, George Brandis and Matthias Cormann, who I had the pleasure of catching up with last week. And, sorry? And of course Burmo, most recently, on the other side. But I will say, as Leader of the Opposition, what we all understood in our roles is what we wanted to have as something that parties of government resolve and when we would play the crossbenching. And of course at times people do play the crossbenching, but it wasn't really till last week that I've ever observed a party of government essentially inviting a member of the crossbench to become the Leader of the Opposition. That's right. And I thought, really, Senator Pocock should just be invited to the Liberal Party room and be elected to your job, because he is doing your job. That is what you're doing. That's the first point I'd say. First point I'd say. I've never seen that in over 20 years, to have someone there. The second point I would make is this. The second point I would make is this. This is not urgent. This is a stunt. No, excuse me. I actually listened to you. I listened to you.
I listened to you. Order.
Courtesy. This is a stunt. This is a stunt, and I'm interested to see if the senator actually returns to the last question, which he fought so much about. This is
Senator McGrath. Senator Ruston, I ensured there was silence in the chamber, and I expect that same respect. Order! You're not in a debate with me, Senator McGrath. I expect Senator Wong to be heard in silence.
Thank you.
Wong.
I think we all understand this is a stunt, if the approach people want to take is a conversation across the chamber about the order of the call, that's how we will approach it. But those opposite, and particularly this acting Leader of the Opposition, has not taken that approach. So if the Senate wants to return to what has been the approach, certainly in all the time I've been here, with many different leaders, Senator McGrath, would you mind? No, I'm tired of you interjecting on me. It's just rude. Well, Senator.
Order.
Oh, goodness me. If senators want to return to a conversation across the chamber about how the order of the call is managed, are you done?
Senator McGrath, I've called you to order about 3 times. If you can't sit in silence, leave the chamber. Minister Wong, did you wish to continue?
If senators want to return to that sort of approach, we're up for that. Right, we are up for that. I have always sought in this role, and Minister Gallagher has always sought in her role to have that sort of conversation across the chamber. That isn't the approach that the acting Leader of the Opposition, in her wisdom, has taken. I would recommend to your party room to consider whether or not it's in the long-term interests of a supposed party of government.
Senator Scarr, order.
Her leader isn't.
Senator Scarr. Senator Hanson-Young.
Thank you. Well, on the matter of urgency to suspend, the Greens will not be supporting this suspension. However, it is quite clear that question time has become an absolute farce, that the respect across the chamber is at an all-time low, and that we obviously need to do something about putting a bit more order in place. I'll take up one point that Senator Wong raised, and I must say I felt like, with all due respect, Senator Wong, I know you weren't here last week, but I'm not sure you're really listening and hearing what the rest of the chamber is saying. To stand here today and argue that, in the past the 2 major parties have been able to decide and dictate when to play the crossbench in, that's not exactly it's not exactly what any of us on this end of the chamber are liking to hear right now. The two-party system is crumbling. The two-party system is crumbling. Voters don't like it. That's why they voted at the last election in record levels against the two major parties.
Senator Hanson-Young, order, order, order. Order on my right. Order. Senator Hanson-Young, order. I'm waiting. Senator Hanson-Young, I've called you because I'm going to draw you back to the suspension matter.
So here in the chamber, the government of the day does not have the numbers to control the chamber, and neither, of course, do the rabble over here in the coalition. The numbers on the crossbench continue to grow, and they are growing because the majority of Australians are looking more and more to other options than the two major parties. And I would say to you,
Senator Hanson-Young, I am really struggling to understand your arguments about the suspension. That is what you need to focus your remarks on, please.
My argument about the suspension, President, is that this chamber needs to put in place a system that reflects the reality in this chamber, and it should not be simply dictated to from one side of the major parties to the next. So we will not be supporting this suspension, but we want a proper process put in place to ensure that there is fairness across the chamber of those from the non-government side who are able to hold the government of the day to account. And when you continue to not release documents, when you tell the
order.
I'm sorry, President, but if you can't even keep your government side quiet while I make the arguments, then what's the point?
Young, resume your seat. I'm going to ask you to withdraw that comment.
I withdraw, President, and I seek your protection from the rabble inside the chamber.
Senator Hanson-Young, have you finished, or you wish to
No,
continue?
I haven't. I've got 2 minutes and 25 seconds left.
Order across the chamber.
I urge both sides to talk to the rest of us in the chamber about what would be a good way forward, because it is clear that leaving it to mum and dad isn't working. Leaving it to the major parties isn't working. If we want to put in place a system that holds the government of the day to account, then the crossbench should have a larger number of questions every question time. The opposition should be able to ask questions when they want, and the government should answer. That is how question time is meant to work. It's not so that government members can continue to prop up each other. It is so that the government of the day is held to account. And the crossbench, I'm not going to let Senator Wong sit here today and say that it's up to the Labor Party or the Liberal Party to dictate when the crossbench are played in.
Senator David Pocock.
Thank you, President. I thank Senator Duniam.
Order. Senator Pocock, please continue.
Thanks, President. Thank you, Senator Duniam, for this motion. I won't be supporting it. I note that it looks like it doesn't necessarily reflect the current 1 to 10, but would be willing to look at another motion. But I think it's maybe a good reminder of why we're actually here, and that is because the Labor government, who made much in opposition about transparency, about jobs for mates, are sitting on a report that is over 2 years old now. Linnell Briggs' report into public sector.
Senator Pocock, I'm going to remind you there's a suspension order that was moved by Senator Ruston, so you need to indicate to the chamber your views on why the matter is so urgent or not so urgent that the business of the Senate ought be put aside to continue to debate. That's what you need to focus on.
Sure. This is critically urgent because Australians have had a gutful of jobs for mates. and they have a government that made much about it in opposition, that came into government and said it was so bad that we had to abolish the AAT. And yet, when given a report on how to change that, they sit on it. They sit on it, and in those 2 years there's been a whole number of former Labor politicians who may or may not have been well qualified. They may have had both the experience and the credentials. But we don't know because it's just so opaque. Why won't they release this report?
Senator Pocock, you are drifting again. This is about the suspension.
Thank you, President. And we're only in this situation having to suspend Parliament time after question time after a record question time on Thursday because the government has an addiction to secrecy and will not respond to Senate orders by simply releasing a document. It is not in line with community expectation, and I applaud the Senate for actually putting our foot down and saying you need to comply with Senate orders. This is not good enough.
Thank you, Senator Pocock. Senator Duniam.
President, at the heart of the urgency motion before the chamber is the matter of transparency. Question time is all about transparency. It's about non-government senators asking ministers questions and answers being provided. And can I tell you, sadly, this government really isn't in the habit of doing so. But what this has enabled is for, again, the world to see what this government is really like. The aerating of this motion in front of the media, in front of the gallery, again highlights the aversion to transparency this government has. Senator Pocock mentioned, of course, the catalyst for this, which precipitated the question time last week, the longest question time since Federation, 3.5 hours when the government lost control of the chamber, was because this government refuses to release a document. That's the catalyst, and that's why we're having this debate now. In response, instead of releasing the document, President, which has brought us to where we are today, of course, is because they've then, the government, the all-powerful government that must be obeyed and will tell this chamber what to do, when they'll do it, who'll get what question at what time, again sought to alter the order of question time.
Order.
And so, of course, all of this comes back to this attitude completely opposite to what the government promised this country they would have around transparency. I mean, even the answers to the questions that have been asked by senators in this place last Thursday and today, not befitting of transparent ministers. One-word answers, 10 seconds here, 10 seconds there. EPBC Act.
Senator Duniam, you are now drifting off the matter of the suspension.
Well, the suspension, of course, is about question time and altering the order of call, and we believe it is urgent because this government, these ministers, refuse to be transparent. And that is the thing. And the minister over there, Senator Watt, says we've answered the questions. Well, of course, he's provided whatever he thinks is an answer, but it doesn't actually go to the issues that are being asked about here because, as discussed, record numbers, and this is all interrelated, President. It's all interrelated.
Minister Watt.
Transparency is not just something that occurs in one part of a government's business. We have orders for production of documents this government refused to respond to in any meaningful way. We have FOI requests on behalf of the people of Australia this government refused to provide responses to in any meaningful way. And we are here in question time, the one time of the day where we are able to ask ministers of the Crown, elected on behalf of the people of Australia, to run the government, and of course they seek to run their influence here as well, telling senators when they'll get a question, what order, and what is next from this government that refused to stick up for the promises, or stand by rather the promises that they made. They won't do it. And this is just another example of that. And so I would ask the Greens to reconsider their position, and Senator Pocock as well, because I think it is important this government is held to account. And if we can't get this motion passed here today, we will come back with another motion to deal with this very issue. Because, as I said last week, it is an urgent matter now, but as I said last week, we've had enough of a government completely rejecting the democratic rights of the people of Australia, as represented here by the majority of senators outside of the Australian Labor Party. Look forward to working with a government that wants to actually be cooperative. Happy to do that. But a bit of transparency along the way never goes astray. For it was what was promised, of course, President. Transparency. And part of that is, of course, question time. But we have, as I've said, President, before, a government that refuses to be transparent, wants to dictate to this Senate who'll get a question when, in what order. That doesn't sound like a government that's obeying by, of course, the will of the Australian people and working cooperatively with all senators that don't happen to be in their party room. And of course, can I say, this Senate chamber is sovereign. It is not ruled by the government. There are conventions, of course, but this mob here, conventions that this government will not stick by, whether it's on staffing, whether it's on question time, whether it's on transparency.
Senator Duniam,
and can I tell you,
your seat. Order. Order across the chamber, but particularly on my right. Senator Duniam.
Thank you for your protection, President. But can I say, it has been a delight to again highlight, of course, the willingness of this government to hide from accountability, again, to do what they can do with their numbers from time to time. And it's a real disappointment, especially when such promises were made before the last election and the one before that they so easily break.
Thank you, Senator. Minister Gallagher.
Thank you, President, and I welcome the opportunity to say a few words on this. I mean, I think others have spoken about the fact that this chamber largely, and not that a lot of people see it, works by cooperating across the chamber, because no single party has the numbers, no individual senator can deliver a particular outcome. And so from the minute we start to the minute we adjourn, there is a whole range of agreements that are reached, usually outside of the floor, as we talk across all of the offices. That's the only way the Senate can truly function. We don't talk about it often because, you know, it isn't demonstrated on the floor, but that's how the place works. And last week, that was fractured, and so we are seeing the results of that now. And you know, the Briggs report, and I'm trying to keep within the urgency because this is what's the Briggs report is relevant because it has triggered the fracture that has played out on Thursday and again today. You know, that report will be released, as I have said a number of times, but it will be released once the Cabinet has finished its consideration of it. It won't be released. Well, Order. It won't be released until that time, because it is not fair to my Cabinet colleagues to do that when they are and have the right to consider that report as it relates to their own portfolios. And it is a piece of work that is restricted to boards and committees, as from the work that was done by Ms Briggs, but it is currently before Cabinet. And so the government does have a right to say that under the conventions and under operations of Cabinet confidentiality, and this is recognised in ODGERS, that whilst those discussions and deliberations are underway, the government has a right to protect that information, and that is all we are doing. We will release that report. I've been clear about that. So I do not accept the criticism from Senator Pocock, who not once has asked for a briefing on boards or committees, or indeed anything to do with that report.
Minister, I'm going to draw you
but
back to the
come
suspension.
here, well, because this is linked. I mean, the fact that convention was ripped up on the floor, led by a senator that hadn't sought any information about what the work that I'm currently doing, has ramifications, and we're seeing that over the last couple of days. I wish it had been dealt with differently, but that was the choice of a senator who, working with others, has passed this motion. Now, we are trying to make that work, as we did on Thursday when we all sat here and were prepared to sit here for as long as you had questions for. We tried to stay till midnight. We kept question time going. We were the ones that were directing the show, and those opposite, in all these calls for transparency, left. I mean, the exodus out those doors was something I haven't seen before. And so don't lecture this government about transparency.
We are, as Senator Wong said, we have answered more OPDs than any other government in the history of this parliament. OPDs are being misused by the Senate right now. That is what they're being used as the first point of research, not the last. There are OPDs being used that have 1.8 million documents under their scope.
Minister Gallagher, please resume your seat. Minister Wong.
Point of order. I wonder at some point if Senator Patterson could just cease the interjection. Just at some point in this 5-minute contribution. 5 minutes. Even now.
Senator Patterson, come to
I told
order.
him to be. It's
come
just
to
rude.
order.
We listened to your leader in silence.
It's not
in
a
almost
debate.
silence. We certainly did.
Minister
Almost
Wong.
silence. How about we have almost silence? How about that?
Minister Wong.
Whereas you are like permanent interjection.
Minister Wong, please resume your seat. Order. Senator Scarr. It's not an open debate across the chamber. Minister, please continue. I'm going to draw you back to the suspension motion.
The scope of some of the OPDs that include 1.8 million documents that have to be delivered to this chamber within 8 days. I mean, come on. This chamber needs a serious discussion about how it's going to operate. And, you know, it looks like those opposite are prepared to rip up any pathway to resolution on this, but I would urge everyone in this chamber, and the government is up for it, to talk through how we will make this chamber work, because that is the history of this chamber for its proud 124 years. That is the way it has worked. We do not support the suspension. We have an order for the call. I'm not sure if we're going to get to question 15, but we are prepared to work across the parliament to resolve the order of the call going forward.
Thank you, Minister. So the question is that the suspension the question is that the suspension as moved by Senator Ruston be agreed to. Those of that opinion say aye. Against? I believe the noes have it. The ayes have it. Division required. Ring the bells for 4 minutes. You did call for a division. Okay. Thank you. So I believe the division cancelled? Thank you, Senator Ruston. So it's question 15, and I've got the opposition's name. Oh, sorry, Senator Colbeck. Senator Colbeck.
Thank you, President. My question is to the Minister for the Environment and Water, Senator Watt. Minister, on multiple occasions last year, your predecessor as Environment Minister was asked by the coalition in Question Time and in OPDs to provide the number of hectares of native vegetation and wildlife habitat approved to be cleared for renewable energy projects in the years of the Albanese government. Naturally, this information goes to the very heart of the government's environmental credibility or otherwise. So, Minister, why to this day has the government still refused to release that data?
Please continue. Have you finished a question? Senator Ayres was out voicing you, so I brought him to order. But if you haven't finished your question, just finish it.
I'll repeat the last sentence.
Yep.
President. Naturally, this information goes to the heart of the government's environmental credibility or otherwise. So why to this day has the government still refused to release this data?
Thank you, Senator Colbeck. Minister Watt.
Again, I think it's interesting that Senator Colbeck is asking this question, because I remember Senator Colbeck calling for the approval of the Robbins Island wind farm in Tasmania. So I thought that Senator Colbeck was a supporter of renewables, but maybe he's now falling into line with the National Party-led coalition to oppose net zero and oppose renewables. Senator Colbeck's question goes to matters prior to me taking on this role. I can't shed any further light in answer to his question.
Thank you, Minister Watt. Senator Colbeck, first supplementary.
Thank you, President. Minister, is it the case that the Albanese government has been so reckless that it doesn't actually know how much land and wildlife habitat has been approved for clearance or renewable under renewable projects under its watch? Or is it, as seems more likely, that the primary reason for the government has continued to refuse to provide figures is that it knows the numbers would further expose the complete environmental hypocrisy at the centre of its renewables agenda?
Thank you, Senator Colbeck. Minister Watt.
It's neither of those things.
Senator Colbeck, second supplementary.
Thank you, President. Ultimately, the coalition calculated to the time of the election in May this year, at least a whopping 9.75 billion square metres of land had been approved for clearance for renewable projects by Ms Plibersek, of which well over 6.53 billion square metres had a known disturbance footprint. Does the minister have the latest updates of those figures to provide to the Senate, or will he yet again, like on so many occasions under this government, fail the accountability and
Senator
transparency
Colbeck,
test?
time has elapsed. Minister Watt.
No, I don't have those figures.
Minister Wong.
I ask that further questions be placed on notice.
Thank you. I'm just going to make a statement to a question asked by Senator Wong early during a division committee of the whole. So, senators, there was some confusion earlier